There are 5 early warning signs that seniors exhibit before dementia that everyone should be aware of. Were you aware that symptoms of dementia might be observed up to a year before an official diagnosis is made? That is the portion that the majority of people find surprising. Memory loss is not the gradual decline that occurs over time, rather, it is the subtle changes that begin much earlier and frequently go unnoticed. Because of their subtle nature, these signals are easy to ignore, and they are often even confused with the natural process of aging. However, they have the ability to convey a great deal of information, and acknowledging them now could prove to be of great significance in the future. In the following video, we are going to discuss 5 early warning indicators that may manifest themselves 1 year prior to the onset of dementia. Although they are not particularly dramatic or noticeable, they are significant. These alterations could be trying to tell us something, and they could range from little behavioral shifts to decisions that are out of the ordinary. The sooner we become aware of something, the better prepared we are to take action. It is not our intention to frighten you. We are here to help you get ready so that you may take responsibility for your own health and provide support to others around you. Make sure you stay attentive until the very end, because not only will you have a better understanding of these early warning signals, but you will also walk away with some useful information that could assist you or someone you care about in living a longer and more independent life. Also, if this is your first time seeing this site, I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the site and enable notifications. One video at a time. This channel is committed to assisting senior citizens in maintaining their sense of empowerment, self-awareness, and confidence regarding their health and wellness. Let's get started. Sign 1 is a slight lapse in memory while performing daily duties. A modest shift in memory is one of the initial indicators that frequently goes unnoticed, particularly when it comes to actions that used to feel like they were done automatically. The problem is not that you forget everything all at once or that you have trouble recognizing loved ones. That typically occurs a great deal later. Instead, what frequently manifests itself initially is a series of quite little errors. When you step into the kitchen, you could forget why you are there. It is possible that you will misplace your glasses more frequently than usual, even if they have always been stored in the same location. Alternately, you can start to realize that you have missed a dental appointment that you were certain you had written down in your calendar. Those kinds of slip-ups could appear to be innocent, and in some cases, they actually are. There are times when everyone forgets things. However, if these occurrences become more often or if they begin to disrupt your typical routine, they may be early indicators that something more fundamental is undergoing a change. There is frequently a steadily growing sense of annoyance that develops because, on some level, you are aware that something is not quite right. It's possible that you'll feel humiliated, or you might try to brush it off by convincing yourself that you were just getting tired or distracted. But here is what transforms it into something more than just amnesia. Specifically, it is the absence of knowledge that it is even taking place. It is possible for a person to tell the same narrative 3 times in a single afternoon without even realizing it until someone gently brings it to their attention. It is also possible that they forget to switch off the stove, not because they were in a hurry, but rather because the work simply disappeared from their memory in the middle of the process. And when this begins to have an impact on day-to-day living, such as when payments are missed, medication is forgotten, or it becomes difficult to keep track of errands, it is something that should be addressed. An individual by the name of Harold, who was 74 years old, is a good example. When his daughter first became aware of the fact that he was continuing to ask the same question about her employment during each and every phone conversation, she initially believed that it was merely a charming way of demonstrating interest in her. After that, however, she became aware that he was not remembering the replies. In addition to that, he had neglected to renew his driver's license, which was something that he had done without fail for 3 decades. Although they were not particularly noteworthy occurrences, they added up. Memory lapses of this nature typically occur months, or perhaps a year or more, before the more obvious symptoms of dementia manifest themselves. They are not always simple to identify, particularly in situations where the individual is still functioning effectively in other areas of their life. On the other hand, they may serve as cautionary signs. In addition, the earlier they are identified, the sooner action can be taken, whether it be seeing a physician, monitoring changes over time, or modifying daily activities in a way that safeguards the individual's independence and safety. Sign 2 is a shift in one's disposition or personality. Memory loss is a common mental image that comes to mind when people think of dementia. There may be observable changes in a person's behavior, feelings, or interactions with the world long before memory becomes an issue. However, these changes may still be there. There is more to this than just a poor day or a typical irritability. The person is undergoing shifts that are not entirely consistent with who they used to be. On top of that, they frequently appear without any obvious explanation. There has been a rise in one typical early symptom, a state of irritability or annoyance brought on by circumstances that, in the past, would not have generated a stir. When patterns are disrupted, an elderly citizen who was once calm and easygoing may suddenly become short-tempered, snapping at minor inconveniences or responding with evident irritation. For example, they may snap at small inconveniences. That life has become more difficult is not the case. The reason for this is because their tolerance has gradually decreased. It is possible for some people to experience increased anxiety or withdrawal, even in circumstances in which they previously felt at peace. There is a possibility that a lady who used to look forward to attending church gatherings or reading clubs will suddenly find reasons to stay at home. It is possible that she will say that she is exhausted or that she is not in the mood. In reality, however, it is frequently due to the fact that such settings are now seeming overwhelming. Conversation processing, observing the dynamics of the group, and even navigating the vehicle are all examples. It may all of a sudden appear to be too much, and the tension that results from this might express as avoidance. It's possible that some elderly people will start displaying unusually low moods or indifference. Their enthusiasm in hobbies could wane over time. Once upon a time, they appeared to have less of a desire to interact with other people. There are times when this is not a full-blown depression. The feeling that their flame has been extinguished might create a sense of peaceful detachment. When this emotional shift does not have a clear explanation, such as grief, illness, or the loss of a friend, it is troubling since it is a sign of something more serious. When asked about it, members of the family frequently characterize it as something they are unable to pinpoint exactly. It's possible that a son will observe that his mother no longer laughs at the same jokes or appears to be less emotionally attached when they are having a conversation. You can hear from a friend that someone is not feeling like themselves. These are not obvious, yet they are significant. The manner in which an individual responds to new information is yet another type of manifestation of personality change. Over the course of his life, Walter, who was 76 years old, had always been inquisitive and open-minded. The fact that he had become more stiff and suspicious was something that his daughter observed. When she described even the most basic of things, such as changes to his insurance, he had doubts about her. And with a resoluteness that seemed out of place, he fought any new ideas that were discussed. It wasn't only that he had become crabby. His perspective on the world was gradually evolving, and it caused her to pause. It is important to note that these early changes in mood or personality are relevant because they frequently indicate stress in the emotional regulatory systems of the brain. There is a possibility that they will come months before memory issues, and they provide a significant indication that something is not quite right beneath the surface. When an individual begins to behave in ways that are not typical of them, such as withdrawing from the situation, becoming emotionally numbed, or behaving with aggression when they were previously calm, it is important to take notice. Mood shifts can be caused by a wide variety of factors, including pain, drugs, and sadness, yet, what distinguishes them from other mood shifts is their unpredictability and their novelty. As soon as we become aware of the change, we will be able to investigate the factors that are causing it. Regardless of whether this entails consulting with a physician, modifying the routine of one's everyday activities, or simply paying more attention, I would appreciate it if you could use the second comment section below to let me know that you are continuing viewing this video and that you are finding these insights to be helpful. I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any videos. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. Let's proceed with our plans now. Having difficulty following discussions is the third sign. The inability to keep up with discussions is one of the earliest symptoms that something may be changing in the brain. But it is also one of the warning signs that is frequently disregarded. This is not about forgetting things occasionally or losing your train of thought from time to time, which is something that all of us experience from time to time. It is more about having difficulty processing the flow of information as it is being shared, particularly in situations where it is occurring in real time or in a group setting. Furthermore, for a great number of elderly people, it can be really frustrating, as if the words are coming at them at an excessively rapid pace, or as if the thread of the conversation keeps sliding through their fingers. Not because of hearing difficulties, but because their brain is having trouble keeping up with the pace of the conversation. A person can start asking other people to repeat themselves more frequently. They might not remember what was recently spoken to them, or they might overlook important facts, despite the fact that they were paying attentively. Sometimes, they even answer in a manner that is slightly off subject. This is not because they were not paying attention, rather, it is because their intellect did not fully comprehend the context of the situation. Imagine you are having a dinner with your family and there are multiple individuals chatting at the same time. Harold, who was 82 years old at the time, used to take pleasure in these occasions. However, his daughter began to observe that he would sit silently, not just occasionally but also infrequently participate in the conversation. When queried about the talk at a later time, he would either shrug his shoulders or say that he didn't quite catch everything. It dawned on her that the problem was not a lack of interest but rather a struggle to stay up, to mentally juggle everything that was going on. The back and forth had become too quick, too layered, and too much. In situations where there are distractions in the background or when someone is being told a story that jumps from one point to another, this kind of issue frequently presents itself. It is possible that they will become confused or forget the beginning before they have even reached the end. It is possible for this to result in withdrawal in group settings. It is possible for a senior citizen who used to take pleasure in engaging in discussion to begin avoiding group interactions altogether due to feelings of being overwhelmed or embarrassed over missing things. There is also the possibility of having difficulty finding the right words. It's possible that a person may frequently halt, looking for phrases that they've already reiterated 1,000 times before. The problem is not that the term has disappeared permanently, rather, it is that it does not appear at the time that they require it. It is not lost on them, particularly when they are in public or in the company of people they do not know very well. This knowledge can cause them to feel frustrated or self-conscious. In certain instances, the individual may begin to replace meaningless words such as thing or stuff for ones that are more particular. Or they may become distracted in the middle of a phrase and fail to complete their thought. Conversations may give the impression of being disconnected as a result of this. And over time, it may have an effect on their confidence to speak up, as a result of their fear that they would say something that is not appropriate or that others will not comprehend them. They may speak less. However, the most revealing aspect is the degree to which the struggle becomes consistent. There are times when we all find ourselves unable to articulate our thoughts. On the other hand, it is important to pay attention to this if it begins to occur on a regular basis, and especially if someone appears to be aware of it and concerned about it. The way in which the brain processes language, attention, and memory is intimately tied to the capacity to follow a conversation and to contribute to and participate in it. Consequently, when that skill begins to deteriorate, even in less obvious ways, it can be one of the first indications that something more fundamental may be undergoing a change. It is also essential to take into consideration the impact that this has on relationships. People may quit starting discussions if they have the impression that they are being excluded from them. Even when they are not alone, they could begin to experience feelings of isolation. And this isolation, in turn, might hasten the deterioration of cognitive abilities by preventing meaningful communication, which is one of the most crucial kinds of stimulation for the brain, from occurring more frequently. 4. A loss of interest in activities that were previously enjoyed. It is one of the clearest and most alarming symptoms that something might be happening beneath the surface when a person begins to quietly retreat from the activities, routines, or interests that they once found to be in their life that brought them joy. This kind of apathy is not something that happens overnight in most cases. The symptoms appear gradually, and at times they are so subtle that even members of the immediate family are not immediately aware of them. Walter, who was 78 years old at the time, used to take great pleasure in caring to his vegetable garden. At the beginning of each spring, he would plant out the layout, pick up seedlings, and spend hours making sure that the soil was completely perfect. The garden, however, had been left naked for a whole year, which his daughter discovered one year. He just responded by saying that he had not gotten around to it when she inquired about it. It was the next season that the tools were once again stored in the shed. In the place where there was once care and pride, there are now only weeds growing. There are no tomatoes or lettuce. The occurrence of this kind of change frequently indicates more than just exhaustion or ennui. The fact that the brain is beginning to lose its inherent impulse to seek out reward, pleasure, and purpose is one possible interpretation of this phenomenon. During the early stages of dementia, this disengagement is not typically caused by feelings of laziness or mood swings. The issue is that there is a weakening connection to things that were once significant or full of satisfaction. One thing that makes this pattern particularly challenging is the fact that it does not always come with a sense of melancholy. On the surface, a person might not appear to be depressed. It is possible that they will continue to be kind, cordial, and even smile throughout interactions. On the other hand, the spark that used to motivate people to act, participate, or initiate appears to be waning beneath the surface. Events are no longer planned by them. Neither of them initiates any new ventures. They might even decline invitations that they used to gladly accept without giving it a second thought beforehand. This can sometimes be seen in the way that they dress or the way that they take care of themselves. It's possible that once at a time, someone who was meticulous about their appearance, grooming, and home maintenance will start to forget about those particulars. It's possible that they'll let their mail pile up, put off opening their bills, or stop accepting phone calls. It is not that they are unable to do so, rather, they simply do not feel the desire to do so anymore. There is a gradual loss of the inner momentum, which can be extremely revealing. Even activities as simple as watching television or reading the newspaper might become unduly taxing. They may be seated in front of the TV, but they may not be paying attention to what is going on. No books are ever completed. Magazines are stacked up. It is possible that they will claim that there is nothing wrong. But when asked what they have been doing, their response will be ambiguous. Quite a bit, just taking it easy, or absolutely nothing at all, due to the fact that everyone seems to slow down a little bit as they become older. This apathy can be misinterpreted as natural aging. Nevertheless, there is a distinction to be made between slowing down and disconnecting. Physical pace is associated with the former, whereas emotional fading is associated with the latter. In the event that the individual used to look forward to social occasions or creative activities, but now they avoid or forget about them on a regular basis. This may indicate that there is something more significant going on than simply getting older. A defensive mechanism is another possible explanation for this kind of early departure. When an individual begins to comprehend their own difficulties with memory or communication, they may want to distance themselves from situations that previously brought such deficiencies to light. There is a possibility that they do not want other people to see that they are forgetting things or lose track of conversations. As a result, they carefully remove themselves from circumstances in which they can experience feelings of being judged, overwhelmed, or out of place. When something like this occurs, it is absolutely necessary to react with warmth rather than pressure. There is little point in forcing them back into their habits if the underlying problem is more serious. Instead, what they require is a gentle company, encouragement, and possibly a more in-depth examination of what might be going on medically with their condition. A straightforward talk that is guided with care has the potential to open the door to comprehension as well as to action that could create a difference. I would appreciate it if you could use the fourth comment section below to let me know that you are continuing viewing this video and that you are finding these insights to be helpful. I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any videos. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. Let's proceed with our plans now. The fifth sign is characterized by unusual difficulties with directions from familiar sites. It is not uncommon for someone to experience more than a fleeting moment of absent-mindedness when they begin to lose their sense of direction or forget how to travel to locations that they had been familiar with for years. Early dementia is characterized by a number of subtle but increasingly serious warning symptoms, one of which is difficulty navigating settings that were earlier considered very natural. In addition, it is not always the case that everything takes place at the same time. Instead, it manifests itself as fleeting, unsettling moments that gradually become more regular over time. Imagine someone like Frank, who was 82 years old at the time, and who used to drive to the same small church every Sunday, which was only 10 minutes away from his house. First thing in the morning, he failed to take a turn, and then he went around the block again, not knowing why the path didn't feel right. He arrived embarrassed, unclear of how he had been confused in the first place, but he eventually made it because he was determined to get there. After a month had passed, he called his daughter in the middle of the afternoon. He was stranded on a street that was only 1 mile away from his home, and he was unable to recall which road led to his house. These kinds of circumstances may not need involve extensive distances. In point of fact, some of the most revealing signals occur within the confines of the abode. It is possible for a person to forget which drawer contains the silverware. Or another possibility is that they will linger in the corridor, unsure of which door leads to the bedroom. Not only is it a matter of memorization, it is as if their mental map has been transformed, and the surroundings that were once familiar to them do not feel the same way anymore. This state of confusion does not necessarily adhere to a pattern that is consistent. Everything appears to be in order one day. The next thing they know, they are unable to find a way to walk to the supermarket where they had been shopping for decades. It is possible that they will begin to rely significantly on other people to lead them. Or they may completely avoid going out if they are afraid of getting lost. Not because they are physically incapable of operating a vehicle, but rather because their confidence in their ability to navigate has silently disappeared. They may even cease driving in certain circumstances. It is essential to have a clear understanding that this change is not motivated by carelessness. This is because the brain's capacity to handle spatial information starts to deteriorate as the condition progresses. A deeper problem with cognitive mapping is reflected when a person is unable to recall landmarks, forgets where specific roads lead, or begins taking unusually long journeys to familiar areas. These are all examples of situations that can occur. Furthermore, it is sad that this particular form of spatial confusion is frequently one of the earliest neurological indicators of dementia. They also react differently to different situations, which is another clue. Even something as easy as going to a friend's house or strolling through a larger store might become challenging to manage. It is possible that they will cling to your arm more than average, or that they will appear reluctant to explore on their own. When they are attempting to get their bearings, their eyes dart around, but they appear uncertain, as if they are looking for a signpost in the fog or something similar. When it comes to navigating, even indoors might become difficult. It is possible that they will have feelings of embarrassment if they forget which corridor to turn into, since they are going to the restroom in a restaurant that they have visited previously. Because of these instances, their self-assurance may be shaken, and their uneasiness may gradually rise. It is possible that they will begin to completely avoid going out. Not because they detest the location, but rather because they are afraid of the consequences that could occur if they completely forget where they are or how to get back. It is extremely concerning since this indicator is frequently overlooked by other people, particularly if the individual is excellent at concealing it. This is one of the reasons why it is so concerning. They might be carrying a phone that has a GPS app on it, or they might offer a hazy reason like being stuck in traffic or running errands in order to cover up the reality that they got lost. And while they are still performing well in other areas, it is possible that their friends and family will not notice the pattern until it becomes more difficult to ignore their behavior. When you start to notice these indicators, such as having trouble remembering routes, feeling uncomfortable in familiar places, or having a reluctance to navigate even short distances, it is essential to pay attention. Not only are these changes related to memory, but they also pertain to the manner in which the brain processes areas such as space, movement, and awareness. As a result, they indicate the requirement for assistance, comprehension, and, in many instances, a medical evaluation. It is not a cause for alarm if you notice these behaviors in someone you care about, or even in yourself. Rather, it is a reason to pay attention, to examine more closely, and to start considering how you might best encourage clarity, comfort, and independence for as long as possible. Lastly, some thoughts. While we are contemplating the 5 subtle indicators that frequently manifest themselves a year prior to the onset of dementia, it is essential to keep in mind that awareness is the initial step toward effective preparation. These changes, whether they be sudden irritability, withdrawal from hobbies that were formerly cherished, difficulty with day-to-day tasks, looking for the appropriate words, or getting lost in familiar settings, are not simply a natural part of the aging process. You might think of them as subtle signals from the brain that are requesting attention, care, and sometimes even intervention. What did you find to be the most noteworthy? It's possible that you noticed a pattern in someone you care about, or that you witnessed something that prompted you to pause and reflect on the routines you follow in your own life. That's a good thing, because paying attention to the smallest details can have a significant impact on the outcome. You can create room for understanding and support by recognizing these indications at an early stage, which is a significant amount of time before misunderstanding and irritation take root. In addition, there is a profoundly human quality to this subject matter. It serves as a reminder that life is both valuable and delicate, and that the manner in which we treat other people, particularly those who are beginning to suffer, reveals more about our capacity for kindness than anything else. These indications are not merely medical clues merely. They are invitations to present oneself, to be present, and to walk alongside another person through the process of uncertainty rather than allowing them to walk alone. And if you are someone who recognizes these signals in yourself, you should know that forgetfulness, reluctance, or change are not characteristics that characterize you personally. Resilience, value, and the wisdom that you have accumulated over the course of your lifetime are the characteristics that identify you. It is not a sign of weakness to ask for assistance or to voice your worries. This makes you more powerful. If you want to look deeply and ask challenging questions, you need to have bravery. Even more courage is required to move forward with the following step. This road can be navigated with dignity in a number of different ways. The early symptoms of dementia do not necessarily have to cause worry if the appropriate support is provided. They can lead to comprehension, to the establishment of new habits, to a more profound appreciation for the straightforward pleasures that are a part of everyday life, and to connections that continue to be significant, even if the words are not always clear. We appreciate you being here with us today. It would be wonderful if you could get in touch with us. Please leave a comment below and tell us about one item you discovered today and how you intend to put it to use in your life right now. We place a high value on your opinions, so please do not be reluctant to share them with us. Our inspiration and encouragement are greatly increased as a result of reading your remarks. I would appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and share this video if you found it to be informative and enjoyable. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. We appreciate you taking the time to watch, and we hope to see you in the future video.